So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening once again, and welcome. Great to see all of you. Great to see all of you on Zoom and all of you joining us later. I'm so happy that you decided to be with us. So, I believe in giving credit where credit is due, and the Affiliated New Thought Network, or ANTN, is a membership organization of New Thought, Religious Science, and Unity churches and centers, as well as individuals. And we have ministers, we have practitioners, and we have lay people as members and friends of our organization. And several weeks ago, we did a special workshop entitled Your Ministry, Your Way. And so it was for the pulpit ministers and the practitioners, but it was also for everybody, because if you stop and think about it, and the musicians, but if you stop and think about it, each person in this room and each person on this planet has a ministry. It might not be this, it might not be in robes, and it might not be in church on Sunday, but there is a ministry and a calling for each of us and a way that we make a difference in the world. So my topic for this morning is letting your light shine, your ministry, your way. I love this teaching, as you might have noticed, and I'm sure you do as well. And one of the things that I learned when I first started, or soon after I started, was the ability and the necessity to question. I grew up in traditional Christianity, and if you come from there and your particular branch of traditional Christianity, we weren't necessarily encouraged to ask questions. That's what the priest said, or that's what the minister said, or that's what the rabbi said, or whoever it was, and that's what you were told to do, and you just went and did it. But I love in our teaching that we can and are encouraged to ask, well, what does that mean? Why? Why am I responding or reacting to this situation this way? Why does this bug me? What is this button that's being pushed? I have some buttons. You all might not have buttons, but I have buttons. Why are you responding this way? What did I say? What didn't I say? Why are you responding that way? A big one for me, why did I say yes to this? Why did I say yes to this when it was not mine to do? Or why did I say no to this when I really wanted it? Whatever it was. What's the motivation behind those decisions? If you come from traditional Christianity, and please know, I'm not recovering Lutheran. That was a big portion of the foundation of my life, and it allowed me to step out of that and into my truth. And it also allowed me to study the Bible. And so I'm pretty good, and I love to quote the Bible, and we'll talk about that later on this morning, because we don't always do that in this teaching, but that's the foundation of what we believe, whether we want to admit it or not. And that's certainly okay. But so many of us, if you come from traditional Christianity, you come from that place of original sin and of not enoughness. And we're born and we're wonderful, and then it goes downhill from there. Because of those, or at least we have that belief that somehow we're not enough, we're not good enough. And so in order to be loved, in order to be enough and to be successful, many of us got the message that we needed to be somehow different from what we were. That I'll be loved as soon as, I'll be acceptable as soon as, I'll be okay as soon as I either start doing this or stop doing this, which kind of went against what my soul was telling me, but that's what I felt I had to do at the time, and that might have been your situation as well. if I have to do something other than what I want to do, if I have to be something other than what I believe is for me to be, then I might have to present a different image to the world. I might have to live a different lifestyle than I'm called to, or do different work than I'm called to. I might have to wear that mask. I might have to hide my light. But we didn't come here to do that. And if you were with us last Sunday, or last weekend was a pretty amazing weekend, because we had, of course, Reverend Sherry's ordination, and she's doing something else this morning, but we send our love to her. And I know that they had an adventure getting back to Minnesota at this time of year with the abundant weather through the upper Midwest. Yes, so they experienced the universe's abundance in that way, but they did make it safe and sound. And then Reverend Suzette talked last week about authenticity and about this theme that we're talking about throughout the month. And one of the quotes that she used, and at the risk of repeating ourselves, I think it's so worth repeating. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. So, and we'll talk much more about that. So I want to talk this morning about you. I want to talk about your ministry and your light and your wisdom and your experience that you bring into the world that nobody else brings, because no one else has had your experiences in your life. They might have been right along with you. You might have a twin brother or sister, but they would not have experienced, even if you were joined at the hip, you would not have experienced everything that they did, and vice versa. So you have uniqueness and wisdom and light that no one else on the planet ever has or ever will. Your ministry, and that sounds like the ministers and practitioners, and it absolutely is, but it's for all of us. Everywhere we have that ministry and that light and that opportunity in making a difference in the world. Sometimes we wear masks. We do Halloween. In the Jewish faith, last Monday was Purim. And I was trying to get much more detail, and I couldn't find a lot of information, but it's not a, they don't call them a high holy day, but it's not a high holy day, but it's a celebration of when they were able to hide from this basically evil king and keep from being basically annihilated. So it's a celebration of sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes we need to be someone other than who we are, but then when we're done with that, then we can take the mask back off. Because I am charming and sparkling and positive and wonderful and delightful, and no laughter, please. And I'm also hateful and surly, and thank you, but I'm also hateful and surly and cranky and judgmental and impatient and all those other things. And I hate to break it to you, but you are too. And that's okay. And that's necessary, because we allow ourselves to be cranky, to be less than charming and sparkling, and process it and then move forward. It's just the truth of our being. It's a mask that we wear, and then we take it right off again and go on with our lives. Sometimes our mask has to do with our beliefs. Is there enough? Is there enough? Is there enough time? Is there enough money? Do I have enough? Am I enough? Or is my mask one of lack and struggle and just work until the weekend? Remember that song? Everybody's working for the weekend? But then the work week is 5 days. The weekend is only 2. So we're always working for the weekend, just waiting until the next big thing versus recognizing the joy and the wonder and the possibility in Tuesday afternoon and Thursday night, rather than waiting, rather than postponing our joy. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So can we drop the mask? Can we allow our light to shine? And I would suggest your light is yours, your unique light, different from mine, different from the person sitting next to you, different from your mother's or father's or kids. Yours is your unique light and your wisdom and your experience that you bring into the world. Speaking of the Bible, Jesus said, and this comes from the Beatitudes. Get that? Beatitudes. Sounds like a whole nother Sunday talk. From in Matthew, Jesus is quoted as saying, "You are indeed the light of the world. A city that is built upon a mountain cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand so that it gives light to all who are in the house." Now, I love you all, and so I will not sing, but do you remember the Sunday school song, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm going to let it shine"? All around the neighborhood, I'm going to let it shine. Hide it under a bushel? No, I'm going to let it shine. Dear Lord, they probably haven't sung that in 50 years. But anyway, it's a pretty cool song, and we had fun when I was growing up. But it gets the point across that this light, this wisdom, this passion, this experience that is uniquely ours is unlike anyone else's. And that is our light and our possibility and how we make a difference in the world. As we shine our light, as we say, yes, I want to do that. As we say, no, I don't want to do that. As we say, I don't know. And if you were with me, I think 2 weeks ago, we talked about the sacred I don't know and how important it is for us to allow ourselves to say, I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how this is going to come out, but I know that I'm divinely guided to do what needs to be done because it's our light. So my question for us is it okay to live our lives full out and out loud? Our theme for the year is living out loud. So making a little, stirring the pot, we used to say. Making a little noise, having some fun. Frolicking. When was the last time we frolicked? Gotta do that. Is it okay to live our lives out loud and gently, lovingly, but firmly speaking our truth and then living in it? There's a book, I think it was written in the 80s, When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. Do you remember that? It's probably out of print, but there's amazing wisdom there. Have you ever done that? Boy, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. Okay. And it's a big mess because then I regret saying yes. And I resent you for having the gall to even ask me because you know I'm going to say yes, right? Or can we stand in our truth and say, yes, I want to do that. Or no, I don't want to do that. And let it be okay and not feel guilty afterwards. It's important for us to stand in our truth. Is it okay for us to ask for what we want of others and of the universe? Because if I can't ask you to stop by my house and help me do something, or if I can't ask you to be at church with me 15 minutes early to do something, if I can't ask another human being, then how am I able to ask the universe for what I say I want? Because Spirit always responds to us as we believe. So is it okay to ask? Is it okay to ask? An interesting question. And because we didn't come here, amazing wisdom, and I'm not sure that Edwin Gaines was the first person that said it, but we didn't come here to pay bills and die. We came here to frolic, and to frolic requires some necessities. The money, the physical body, the relationships, all those things are required in order for us to live this full, amazing, wonderful life. And it's our opportunity for us to ask for what we want, and then the other person can either say yes or no. That's their trip, not ours. But also, again, with Spirit, is it okay to look at that area of our lives and say, this is okay, and I'm grateful for what I have, but yes, thank you, and more, please. Can we do that? It's important. It's important. Is it okay for us to say yes and no and enough? We'll talk about enoughness in a couple of minutes. I did at the end of the day. So I live alone. I have the dog, and the dog is wonderful because she never criticizes. She never looks at me. Well, if you've met her, you know she has very expressive eyes, and so sometimes she rolls her eyes at me, and I'm like, Maggie, give me a break here. But she never criticizes the fact that I haven't vacuumed in a few days, and she's a long-haired white dog. So what happens with long-haired white dogs? Well, the long hair, if you have furry beasts at home, you know, cats, dogs, whatever, you know. But birds, I think Judy would probably tell us that birds tend to molt, yes. So there are things that need to be cleaned up, and I'm not always as good about that as I should be. Don't tell anybody. And she does not criticize, which is a wonderful thing, but I just have to remember to do that. But at the end of the day, when we lay our heads down to sleep, do we go through the list of what we didn't do? Or do we allow ourselves to go through the list of what we did do? Because it's like watching Law and Order and then going to sleep. Or the local news even. Let's watch a little Golden Girls. Let's watch a little 2.5 Men, or just something lighter that brings us joy, and go to sleep on top of that joy and that gratitude, rather than there's a whole long list of things that you were supposed to do today that you didn't. Do we do enough? Because whatever it is, probably will be there tomorrow for us to do. The good news is, and the bad news is, if we didn't get it done today, it'll be there tomorrow. Because every day and every moment, we're making choices based on what we believe about ourselves. And if we believe we're not enough, if we believe that somehow we need to keep that part of us hidden under the bushel, then life responds in that way, and we're not able to live full out. Living out loud, fully expressing who we came here to be, allowing ourselves to frolic, allowing ourselves to serve others, and as we do that, it gives other people permission to do the same thing in their lives. But always coming from that place of authenticity. In the book, The Gifts of Imperfection, Brené Brown talks about the word authentic. And she writes, authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. You might have grown up with a checklist of the things that you're supposed to do. Married by the time you're X age, children by the time you're Y age, college, job, and no matter where you are in the scheme of things as far as life is concerned, there are those shoulds. My favorite word in the English language. If we could take one out and send it out of the dictionary and send it into space, that would absolutely be the word to go, because should means I don't really want to, but I should. Yeah. So, and how often do we should on ourselves or shouldn't on ourselves, even though we really want to do that, but for some reason we didn't want to. But if we grew up with that master list of how it should be, and well, when you get to be a certain age, you should be more or you should be less or whatever, there's the opportunity to look back and ask if we're really being authentic with ourselves when we're not doing what we wanted to do or doing what we didn't really want to do. Again, it's that yes and no thing. Again, when we stand in our authenticity and our truth, when we shine our light like that, we give other people permission to do the same. You come into this moment with wisdom, experience, idiosyncrasies, weirdness, that no one else has. You're welcome. And see, I came out of the closet about this several months ago, and I'll repeat it again for those of you that don't remember. So I tie my shoes with rabbit ears. I don't know. I just couldn't get, and I was in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and couldn't tie a knot to save my life. I just, that's how I do it. I type with one finger on each hand. I don't know. Does it get typed? Yes. Do my shoes get tied? Yes. So what difference does it make how we do whatever we do as long as we get to the outcome that we had in mind? It doesn't matter at all. I don't ski. Do you ski? If you ski, raise your hand. Oh, I feel so much better. So we went. Back in the day, I worked for a market research company, and I was in customer service, and I worked with a sales rep, and so we were a team supporting and getting the contracts renewed with our larger clients. And if your client renewed and you made your sales quota, you got to go on quota club trips. And this was the technology industry, and business was really good. And so we went to the employee and their significant other or friend or partner or guest went to Beaver Creek, Colorado, skiing. Not bad. Nice place. So the lodge was just outside the ski lift. So the company paid for everything, airline tickets, lodging, handed you an envelope of cash when we got there in case you have some incidentals that you need. It was really wonderful. And we did Vail once, we did Beaver Creek once, and then we did a cruise to the Western Caribbean. So it was an amazing benefit to this job that I loved, which is a whole separate conversation. But so we went skiing for the first time, and my husband at the time loved to ski. He was all about, he's moving, he's zooming, he's going. And those of you that knew him know that was his personality. And so he's like, well, come on, you can do this, at least take some lessons. So, okay. Well, so I'm there praying for some sort of divine intervention, which I did not get at that time. The good news is I didn't break anything. But if you've tried to learn to ski, you know they're supposed to do the bunny slope that's supposed to be a bowl. So if you can't stop yourself, the other side of the bowl will stop you. I had challenges trying to stop. So run into a tree, run into a group of small children, or sit down. I have no idea why I thought that would help, but I did, and without going into detail, please know that it was not a happy experience. And I remember that I really, Jerry, for the love of God, why can't you ski? Because I don't want to. I just don't. I don't have to do this. If you only love me if I ski, then we have to have another conversation about our relationship. And I just don't want to do this. And so, God's grace is sufficient for me, but my grace is not sufficient for me. I had no grace on those skis. And the good news is I didn't have to. It's okay for us in shining our light and in expressing our truth. It's okay for us to say, you just go and have a wonderful time, and I'm going to stay in the lodge and have cocoa or hot buttered rum or something, because I'm not doing that. And that's okay. That is okay for us to stand in our truth. And again, we give other people permission to do the same when we do that. So what is your ministry? Minister, practitioner, something of music, creativity. We have amazing creativity in this room. I know we do, in our painters, in our writers, in our Emma, what are you doing? Crocheters, in our gardeners, in our people who take care of homeless animals and homeless people. Your ministry might be none of those things, but it's in spending time with people and allowing them to see another viewpoint. Have you ever been talking with someone and they're down the path of, and I don't know how this is going to work, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and isn't it awful, and life is terrible, and you do the Ain't It Awful Club thing, and then over a little bit of time, you're able to begin to shift the conversation. Yeah, but what if that happened? What if that happened? That is absolutely a ministry and an amazing blessing that we bring. I love Facebook, and you've heard me say that before, and you will again, because there's so much amazing wisdom, and there's goofiness. And the good news is you just keep scrolling, and you scroll past the goofiness, and you look for the joy and the passion and the wonder, and you recognize that, yeah, the world is crazy out there. And I was talking with a friend the other day about, is it really, it's worse, it's the worst that it's ever been. Really? Or is it just that now we know? Maybe all these things have been going on all along, and it's just that everybody's got a video camera. Everybody's got a camera because they've got a smartphone, so we get to see everything that's happening immediately, if not sooner, because everybody's right there broadcasting it to the entire world. What an amazing ministry in changing the conversation. Because, yeah, there's stuff that happened last night, and it was awful. And there are amazing things that happened last night. We can change the conversation because, as we know, what we focus on expands. And we don't come from the place of denial, but we come from the place of yes and. and we can make all the difference in the world. At some point, we can say, it's going to happen when it happens. Quoting an amazingly wise song. Thank you again for that. One of my favorite books is Radically Content by Jamie Varon, and I've quoted her before and I will again this morning, about because we need to be going and doing and cleaning and creating and bigger and better and all the rest of that. But can we step back? Remember what God did on the seventh day, if you believe that in the Old Testament? On the seventh day, he just stood back and hung out and said, it's good. Can we, in our busyness, in our creativity, which is all wonderful, can we also say, it's good? Quoting Jamie Varon. Can we be radically content? A radically content life includes all my most honest dreams and desires, but doesn't delay the enjoyment of the present moment. Contentment is not about living without dreams or hopes, not complacency, not settling, but settling in. Amazing wisdom. As Sophia was preparing us for our meditation and reading this morning, she said, settle in. Can we settle in? Settling in, it is a feeling. Where I think we get it wrong is when we ascribe a definition to settling that is based on someone else's life. And when we use other people's definitions, we're taking directly out of our own lives our own truth. Because society does give us a map. When you follow that map, when you get all the things you thought you were supposed to have, when you fulfill their dreams and needs, that can feel like settling. The life you most want is the one you decide on. So in other words, you're shining your light. You're doing your ministry. You're settling into your experience and what's next and true for you. So settling in allows us to become comfortable with our history. Many of us have chapters and volumes and stuff, to use a purely spiritual term. And it can keep us awake at night unless and until we allow ourselves to settle in and say, dang, those were strange days. And everything somehow, some way had to happen so that I could be standing here this morning. Settling in allows us to forgive. As a process, not an event. We don't wave the magic wand, okay, poof, I forgive you. But we forgive. We change our story from victim to victor. Because it's all about our story. You know, this happened. And then we attach all the color and all the sounds and all the stuff, again, adding the a little shading, a little, yeah. Grieving as we need to, because we need to. We need to feel that loss and that grief and that hurt and that anger and that whatever it is, and then ultimately come to that place of acceptance. Release the clutter so that all the physical possessions that no longer serve us, somebody out there needs that. Somebody out there needs that Peloton. I got to figure out how to do that. But that's a separate conversation. The sacred yes, the sacred no, the sacred I don't know. And then conscious radical gratitude. Because springing forward today invites us, requires us to have that lightness of being, and we don't have that lightness of being if we're trying to do somebody else's life. If we're trying to do somebody else's ministry, if we're not true to ourselves, that weighs us, that those shoulds can really weigh us down. Life needs you, life needs me to be our unique selves and to offer those gifts that we bring to the world. I was at Cracker Barrel. I meant to get the slide for this and I forgot it. We were at Cracker Barrel in Las Vegas, of all places, years and years ago. And, if you've ever been to a Cracker Barrel, first of all, the food is amazing. You sit and listen to your arteries close as you're eating gravy and biscuits or whatever. And of course, they have the amazing gift shops. And in this Cracker Barrel gift shop in Las Vegas, there's this little sign. And it says, "I'm not beautiful like you. I'm beautiful like me." The truth of us is that we are. We are the beloved. We are that unique expression of spirit. All of it necessary to get us to this point. And when we allow our light to shine, we are using those gifts to share with others. And that's, after all, what we came here to do. Can't talk about that without getting emotional, sorry. So you have a green sheet on your chair that we don't have time for this morning, but I invite you to take that home with you and give some thought to your ministry. And what do you do in the world? No matter what it is, because we're all doing something. And if something comes up for you, I would really like to, and you get to fill in the blank, then think about that and how you might accomplish that. And then I am inauthentic when do I have these? Yes. So for those of you online, the questions, what is my ministry and how do I shine my light? I am inauthentic when and then I am authentic when because the world needs us and our wisdom and our passion and our humor and our joy, because that's our ministry and that's why we're here. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a minute. So in the peace and the quiet of this moment, we allow ourselves to be reminded of our oneness with the God presence, with one another, and with all of life. And we offer great gratitude today for the opportunity to be back together again, either in this very room or on the internet or by listening later. We give thanks for this beloved spiritual community and this truth that we share, that we really are the beloved. And because we are, we bring amazing gifts and wisdom. We bring it into the world and into the universe, knowing that, remembering the words of Course in Miracles, God himself would be incomplete without us. And so we move forward in that recognition and that remembrance. And we allow our light to shine. We allow ourselves to do what we're called to do, to not do what we're not called to do. To say, yes, thank you, and more please. For our time together and this day, we give great thanks. Together we say, and so it is.
There is a certain preparation necessary for this, just as we cultivate the soil before we plant seeds in the ground, so we must cultivate our own consciousness. We must cultivate an inward awareness, filling our minds with a feeling of a great presence and the authority of a great law of good. Sometimes this means sitting quietly for a few moments, just sensing the presence, feeling it and believing it, and keeping the mind open to its influx, to a sense of peace and inward awareness. Then we must realize that our word, being the presence, the power, and the activity of the living Spirit, shall not return unto us void. It actually will be done unto us as we believe, as we affirm, and as we accept.